the Veilsmith. Some people also call me Veil. My real name is Tris. If you're watching this video, chances are you followed me over here from TikTok, Instagram, or Facebook. If you did, thank you so much for joining me here on YouTube. And if not, welcome! I asked my followers on Instagram what my first video on here should be, and the majority of you asked for a video introducing myself. Oh boy, where do I start? I won't go as far back as childhood. It was a childhood. I was weird. I was bullied for being weird, but who wasn't bullied when they were a kid? So I think most of you are probably interested in how I started Fantasy. For anyone new here, I own a business called Fantasy, where I make embroidered accessories, and my most popular and well-known accessories are masks that accommodate glasses, which look like this. Ta-da! And yes, you can see through them. See? Hello! Because of my business, I was actually invited to a pre-Grammy event last year where I got to meet all of the Grammy nominees, which was pretty crazy. And this year I'm going to a pre-Emmy event. I've also made masks for metal bands such as Dead Animal Assembly Plant, Two Shadows, and for Maria Brink from In This Moment. So, to get to the birth of Fantasy, I think I need to go back to the start of my digital art career, because that plays a big role in what I do now. Ever since I was young, I've always loved to draw. I was always drawing. My parents said that I was born with a crayon in my hand. Aside from that, I also really loved costumes. I absolutely loved anything fantasy. I also loved really creepy, spooky, scary, weird things. I just love how it all makes me feel. You know that feeling you get when you watch like a really good movie where you leave the theater and you're like, oh, I want to raid tombs like Lara Croft. That feeling was like a drug to me. It still is. It just makes me want to do cool stuff. And not just cool stuff that I can enjoy and get a high from, but like stuff that other people can enjoy and get a high from too. I'm starting to sound like a drug dealer for inspiration and creativity. Anyways, aside from loving to draw and playing with costumes, I also really like to make silly videos with my friends, and it should come as no surprise that I also really loved cosplay, and my whole year would revolve around the next anime convention. Now let's move ahead to my first small business. I was freshly in my 20s and working at a small pet store called Fins and More Pets, and was living with a boyfriend at the time who was incredibly toxic. But anyway, he had a guild for Star Wars: The Old Republic, and of course I joined that guild. And while my relationship with this guy was not good and I required much therapy after I broke up with him, I did really love this guild. So I made a chibi drawing of his character, and then the other guild members wanted a chibi character for themselves as well, which then led to people from other guilds also wanting a chibi character drawn by me. And then before you know it, I'm drawing chibi characters for people literally all over the planet. It's really weird to think that my professional art career started with chibis. It was fun at first, but eventually I started to become known for these chibi drawings, and I honestly didn't want to be known for them. What I mostly enjoy drawing is like hyper-realism portraits. I really love drawing faces and hands, and yeah, so I stopped taking chibi commissions and started focusing on what I really loved to draw. And on the topic of getting to know me, it was around this time that I actually was diagnosed with Tourette syndrome. Weird, right? Apparently I've always had it, but it was always written off as being something else. I don't know. It's weird. But anyway, I won't go too much into that right now. I'm just mentioning it because it plays a part later in my story. Getting back to my art career, I was fairly successful at this time. I went to a bunch of events and sold my artwork there. I also had my artwork printed on a skateboard. I actually still have it somewhere, but I don't know where it is at the moment. And when I say fairly successful at this time, I mean like people knew who I was and they wanted to buy my artwork and put it on their wall kind of successful. Not like, oh my god, I can make a living and pay my rent and bills with this money. No. But my digital art career left me wanting something more. For the entire duration of my art career, I felt like I wanted to make artwork that people could wear, that wasn't just artwork printed on t-shirts or something. I didn't know what it was at the time, but I knew that it was out there somewhere. I just had to find it. And roughly around this part of the timeline, I was approved for disability. Remember how I told you that I have Tourette syndrome? Yeah, having that and like crippling mental illness, I was not able to work a normal job anymore. So my tics get really, really bad when I'm very stressed. And then I experienced something called a Tourette attack. And Tourette attacks look and act kind of like a seizure, but you're not like unconscious or anything. Your body's just kind of firing off a bunch of tics and then you kind of convulse, and it's quite painful actually. So yeah, I was on disability for several years, and I'll touch again on this a little later in my story. Fast forward a bit, and I start modeling. I didn't model for too long, but it was a really fun learning experience, and I got to learn how to pose in front of the camera and what looks good on camera. And during this time, I started working for a photographer as an editor, because I have been using Photoshop since I was 14 years old, so I knew quite a lot about Photoshop, and I was very interested in photo editing. And to this day, photo editing is probably one of my most favorite things to do. And in this sort of weird in-between stage of my art career and wanting something more from my art career and modeling and photo editing, I find a necklace. And this necklace just lit up something inside me. I had never seen a necklace so beautiful, but later to my disappointment, I found that same necklace on AliExpress for like $2. And I paid $20 for it. But let's just ignore that. We're ignoring that right now. Everyone was complimenting me on this necklace, and I was just looking at it wondering, could I make something like this? I searched the internet high and low for anything that I could find regarding this beautiful necklace. My search led me to freestanding embroidery and embroidery machines, and I was like, embroidery machines? That's kind of like sewing, right? I know how to sew. Little did I know that learning how to use an embroidery machine was a whole other dance. While using the machines themselves is pretty much the exact same as using a sewing machine, the embroidery program was a whole other mountain that I needed to climb. I kid you not, it took me like 6 months to get anywhere. There weren't many tutorials or many good tutorials on how to learn how to use the embroidery program at the time. I don't know if there's any now, but I just trial and errored my way right through, and I almost gave up a few times. Like, the only thing that kept me going was knowing that the embroidery machine was very costly. I was like, I don't want to throw that away. So I had to learn how to use the embroidery program. Oh, it was so frustrating though. Everything kept falling apart, and I learned that what you make in the program doesn't always translate into a tangible item like how you'd hoped. So yeah, lots of trial and error, lots of failures. But finally I did start to get somewhere. And then I started making necklaces of my own. After that, I tried to make a lace mask, and then I made these sort of weird Phantom of the Opera inspired masks. And then I made the seer mask. This was the first mask that I made where it looked like you were blindfolded, and people really liked it, so I knew I was onto something. I sold my work on Etsy for a while, and that was okay. It was moving really slowly, and it was around this time where I moved into the place that I'm living in now, with some of the best landlord friends I could ever ask for. I also met my now fiance, and the pandemic was in full swing. But then something life-shattering happened. Right at the end of my 20s, my mom passed away. That was really hard. She ended her 10-year battle with cancer, and I feel like that utterly broke me. Oh, don't cry. I did my makeup for you. My mom and I were extremely close, and I can't tell you how many times I wish that I could see her for just like 5 minutes to just tell her about all the cool stuff that's been happening. I just know that it would mean everything to her. She was my biggest fan. Like, she knew that I was gonna do cool stuff. But then after that, I kind of threw myself into my work, which in hindsight was probably not the healthiest thing to do. But I just couldn't bear that sting of grief hitting me all the time. So I distracted myself with work. And this is where I started TikTok. And everybody on TikTok was so warm and welcoming. I was actually really scared to join TikTok because I know that there is, like, you know, there's some crazy stuff on there. But it was so warm and welcoming, and I was so happy that I did finally join TikTok. But yeah, it was on TikTok where people started to ask me if my seer mask was glasses friendly. And the answer, of course, was no. But it had me thinking, maybe there's something here. So I decided to try making a glasses-friendly mask. I remember wanting to make something that looked really cool, but that wasn't really bulky and sat on your face weird because it's going over your glasses. So it took me a little bit of time to figure out, but then the cathedral mask was born. This is the original cathedral mask design, but this is now called the high court mask. And this is now the cathedral mask design. I changed it recently because this version is everything that I had wanted the original cathedral mask to be, but I didn't have the skills to make it at the time. But now I am very happy with it. And after that, I just watched the numbers grow. After my mom passed away, my dad moved out of the apartment that he and my mom lived in, and he moved in with my brother. And there was some money left over, and he used that to help me buy that really big embroidery machine that I have. And then my sales grew. And then something really exciting happened, which was I removed myself off of disability. I had always wanted to get off of disability, and then I finally was able to, which was wild. It was really nerve-wracking though, because I was like, am I gonna make enough money next month? Like, I made enough money this month, but what if next month isn't good? I was like, oh my god, is this the right choice? I was so scared at the time, but it was definitely the right decision. I continued to make sales, and then I was actually able to buy myself more embroidery machines without asking for help from my family. And then I actually hired some friends of mine to come work for me, which was also incredibly wild. Like, I made jobs and now I'm here. It's been a pretty crazy time. My masks were on the cover of an album, and on the back, is it focusing? Like, what? It was also on the cover of magazines and on t-shirts. Maria Brink, if you're watching this video, I just want to first off say hi, but also thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to work with you. Working with you has been life-changing, and I truly appreciate you and everything that you do and everybody in this moment. I'm sending you all a really big hug and so much love. Mwah. Anyways, getting back to reality. It feels so bizarre that roughly 3 years ago I was living off of disability. I remember a long time ago hearing somebody say that in the beginning, nothing happens. Then it moves very slowly. And then it happens all at once. And that is exactly how it felt. I almost feel like I got whiplash. Like, it was so fast. So yeah, that's my story. And I don't know if you've noticed, but I never once mentioned school or college. And that's because I never graduated from high school and I never went to college or university. I developed all the tools and the skills that I needed and still use today, all on my own. Drawing, sewing, modeling, Photoshop, making videos. These are all things that I did as a teenager and a young adult, and I just never stopped. I literally created my perfect job because my job involves all of these things. Oh. So I don't really know how to end this video, but if you'd like to check out my business fantasy, all of my links will be in the description of this video. If you have any questions, you are always welcome to ask, though I do have an FAQ on my website that I would recommend checking out first. And if I don't answer your question there, then you are more than welcome to leave a comment asking. And now that we have been properly introduced, I really hope that you stay for the continuation of my journey. And please let me know if there is anything that you would like to see from me here on YouTube. Be kind to yourself and to each other, and embrace new challenges because you never know where they may lead you. Sending much love to you all. Mwah. Bye!